stick it out till the end. Now that it's raining more than ever, know that we still have each other. You can stand under my umbrella, you can stand under my umbrella.
Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In my last tutorial, we drafted out a pattern for this bustier dress, and in this tutorial we are going to be joining the patterns together. In case you've not seen the pattern drafting tutorial, I'm going to leave the link in the comment section, so go ahead and watch that particular tutorial before you come join us on this one. It's going to help you understand this tutorial better. So after drafting out my pattern, I went ahead to place my pattern on my fabric folded into two, and I added half an inch allowance all the way around, and on the base I added 1 inch for stitching allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. Make sure your center front is on fold. After cutting, guys, this is what I have. I added 1 inch on the base, and I added half an inch on all the sides except the armhole area. After cutting out like this, the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut out my hairstay exactly how the fabric is. I ironed hairstay to the fabric. I also went ahead to iron my wording to the center front and the side front. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. So the first one that we have here is the back piece. For the back piece, I'll be using my main fabric as the lining. I went ahead to cut out 4 pieces. 2 is going to serve as the main fabric, and 2 is going to serve as the lining, and I ironed hairstay to all the fabrics. For the center front, like I said before, your center front should be on fold, and this is what you should have. I ironed my wording to the center front, the main fabric, not the lining, and I also covered it up with my hairstay, and I also ironed end hairstay to the one I'll be using for the lining. In case you don't know how to pad your bustier, I have a very detailed tutorial on this channel. I'm going to leave the link in the comment section. So for the 2 side fronts, I went ahead to cut out 4 pieces just like I did for the back. Okay, 2 is going to serve as the lining and 2 will serve as the main fabric, and I ironed my hairstay to both the lining and the main fabric, and on the main fabric I also ironed wording to it. I left ½ inch on the base so I can use the ½ inch to join my lining piece and the main fabric. So what I'm going to do is to place the center front and the side front like this, and I'm going to pin the pad area just like you see me doing. After pinning, I'll pin the other side and I'll head over to my sewing machine. I'm going to sew from the base. On one side I'll sew from the base to the upper part, and on the other side I'll sew from the upper part to the base. I'll also go ahead and pin my lining piece in place. So whatever you do for the main fabric, go ahead and repeat the same thing for the lining piece. Then I'll be using the ½ an inch that I left to sew all the way around. Remember, we added ½ an inch while we're cutting on the fabric, so use the ½ an inch to sew. In case you are still confused on how to sew, check the comment section. I'm going to leave the link on how to properly pad your bustier there. So these are my 2 back pieces. These are the main piece. What I'm going to do is to place the lining piece on them just like you see me doing. First of all, go ahead and take your dart. While we're drafting, we added our dart, so take in your dart and then sew all the way around. So I've gone ahead to sew, and this is what I had. I also went ahead to iron the seam allowance open just so it sits well. After ironing, this is what I have. You can see how the bustier is standing. I went ahead to repeat the same thing for the lining piece. After sewing, I went ahead to iron. So I used my tailor's arm to iron. All you have to do is to place the bustier part on the tailor's arm just like you see me doing. Open the seam allowance up and then go ahead and iron it open. That is all you have to do. In case you don't have a tailor's arm, I also have a tutorial on how to make your own tailor's arm, so I'll leave the link in the comment section. The next thing I went ahead to do was to cut out my strap. So this is the strap I'll be using. The wideness of this strap on fold is 2¼ inch. So I'll be using quarter inch to sew, and this is what I have. Once I open it up, I have 4.5 inches. For the length of the strap, remember we took out 6 inches from our upper bodies before we started placing our body point while we're drafting. So 6 plus 6 is 12 inches. That is 6 for the front and 6 for the back. So this strap is 13 inches long because I'll be using half an inch to join the strap to the main bodies. So what I have is 13 inches. I also have this piece of fabric that I'll be pleating. The wideness of the fabric is 32 inches while the length is 8 inches. What I'm going to do is to fold this fabric into 2 equal halves. So once I fold it, what I will have is 4 inches, which is going to be the length of my pleats. Okay, so it depends on what you want. I'll go ahead and run a straight stitch on it. So I'm stitching on the right side of the fabric. Okay, the next thing I'll do is to bring back my strap, and I'm going to take 2.5 inches on both ends of the strap. I'll indicate the 2.5 inches using my chalk. If you check the picture that we are following, you will notice that the pleating did not start from the beginning of the strap. They went up by like 2 inches or 2.5 inches before they started pleating. So that is what I'm trying to achieve. So I'll fold my fabric into 2 equal halves, and I'll also mark the 2.5 inches and make it visible. I'm marking the 2.5 inches on both ends of this strap. So I'm going to measure what I have left. That is from 2.5 inches to the other one. What I have left is 8 inches. So what I'll do now is to pleat this long piece of fabric and make it 8 inches. I'll be doing a box split. So what I'm going to do is to take 2 inches, okay, 2 inches apart. So I'll be marking 2 inches just like you see me doing. From 2 inches, I'll mark another 2 inches. I'll keep marking 2 inches till I get to the end of this piece of fabric. After doing that, guys, this is what I have. So pay close attention so you understand what I'm saying. I'm taking number 2 and I'm going to place it on number 1 mark like this. So I'm taking from the inside to the outside. I'll pin it. After placing number 2 on the number 1, I'm going to pin it like this. The next thing I'm going to do is to take the number 1 that I have now. I'm going to ignore number 2. I'm going to place number 1 on number 3. So I'll place it like this, and then I'm going to pin it down. After doing that, I'm going to pick the number 1 that I have now, and I'll bring it back just like I did before. I'm going to bring it back. So I'll pick it like this and I'll place it on this one like this. I hope you guys are not confused. In case you are confused, you can always rewatch so you understand what I'm doing, but it's very simple. The next thing I'm going to do is to take number 1, ignore number 2, and place number 1 on number 3. I'm going to pin it down after doing that. The next thing I'll do is to take number 1 and bring it back. So I'm just repeating the same process. I'll bring it back and I'll pin it like this. You can see how big the pleat is. Next thing I'll do is to take number 1, ignore number 2, and place it on number 3. I hope that by now you have understood what I'm trying to do. I'll pin it like this. After pinning, I'll bring back the last one. So after pleating, you are going to measure it. If it's too big, you can trim out the excess. Trimming is allowed. You can trim out the parts that you don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and pin. After pinning, I'm going to measure what I have. So what I have is about 9.5 inches. You can see that the rough edges is still outside. So what I'll do is to fold it back in. Okay, fold it back in. You can use your hemming gum to hold it down, or you can top stitch on it. So I'll fold it back in. I'll pin it like this. I'll go and top stitch on it. I'll repeat the same thing. So I'll mark my 8 inches and then I'll fold in the rest. So you can cut, you can just trim it out if you want. After trimming, make sure you leave allowance that you use to just fold it in and top stitch, or just iron it down. So I'll fold it in, I'll pin. After doing that, I have the 8 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch on it. After doing that, this is my pleat. I'm going to bring back my strap. My strap is still folded into two. I'm going to open the strap to the right side, and I'm going to place this pleat on the 2.5 inches from this end to meet the 2.5. Remember, we already have just 8 inches in between the 2.5 inches. That is where I'm going to place my pleat, and I'm going to pin it down. So take your time to do this. After pinning all the way to the end, this is what I have. Go ahead and stitch on it to hold it down. After doing that, fold your pleat inward just like you see me doing, and cover it up like this. So I went ahead to fold in my pleat, and I'm using my strap to cover the pleat up. Remember that your pleat should be on the right side of the fabric. So you're going to pin everything right sides facing right sides. So I'm going to pin all the way to the end. After pinning, guys, this is what I have. I'll go ahead and sew. After sewing, this is what it looks like. You can trim if you want to, and then go ahead and turn everything inside out. It's not going to be easy, but go ahead and turn it inside out. After turning it inside out, this is what I have. I also went ahead to pleat the second one for the other sleeves, and this is what I have. So I'm going to bring back my upper bodice, and I'm going to place it like this. Remember, we left half an inch on the strap to sew on the main body, so I'm going to pin it in place like this. So for this front part, you can pin 1 inch away from the joining that you have on the bustier area. So go ahead and pin. After pinning, guys, I'm going to use my lining piece to cover it up, and then I'm going to sew all the way around. The only place I'm not going to sew is the base. That is where I'm going to use to turn everything inside out. After sewing, make sure you go ahead and notch just so everything stays flat. Okay, so I'm going to place it like this. I'll pin all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and sew. After sewing, I'll turn everything inside out. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew, and I've turned it over to the right side. This is what it looks like on the inside, and this is what we have on the outside. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring back my skirt parts. So we also drafted our skirt parts in the pattern drafting tutorial. What I did was to cut out my lining piece. My lining piece was 1 inch shorter than the main fabric, and I went ahead to sew, and then I took in my darts. What I'll do now is to join the upper bodies to the skirt. So I'm going to place them right sides facing right sides. I'll make sure that my dart is matching, and then I'm going to head over to my sewing machine, and I'll use the 1 inch allowance that I left to sew. After sewing, this is what I have, guys. The next thing I'm going to do is to bring back my back upper bodies. Okay, so I've gone ahead to take in my dart for the back upper bodies. I've also sewn the lining and the main piece together. I'm going to arrange my sleeves. So what you do is to create small opening, okay, so that the sleeves will be able to pass through the back. Create a little bit of opening at the neckline of the back. So I'm going to pass the sleeves in. Make sure you arrange your sleeves and make sure it's sitting well before you sew. So I'll pass my sleeves like this, and then I'll open the upper bodies, that's the back upper bodies, to the wrong side. I'll arrange everything properly. I'll go ahead and pin. After pinning, this is what I have. So let me explain again in case you are confused. I turned my back upper bodies to the wrong side, and I went ahead to arrange the sleeves. I passed the sleeves through the right side to come out on the wrong side of the upper bodies. I'm going to go ahead and stitch it down. After stitching it down, I'll open it up like this. Once you open it up, this is what you are going to have. So make sure you arrange it properly here so you don't make any mistake. Arrange it on your work table first before you go ahead and sew. So after sewing, this is what you should have. So I'll head over to my sewing machine and I'll sew that opening closed. So when pinning the sleeve strap to the back, make sure you pin it away from the dart leg. I pinned mine on the dart leg and I had to loosen it and repin it. So pin it it away from the dart leg, okay? Or just wear your dress and mark where you want to pin it first before you sew it, whatever works for you. So I'll go ahead and bring the skirt part for the back. I also went ahead to turn the skirt part with my lining and I took in my dart. So this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to place them right sides facing right side. I'll sew the waist area and then I'll go ahead and sew my zipper to the back. After sewing my zipper in place, guys, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to arrange the dress in place and I'm going to shape it. So I'm going to place my bust circumference on the bust point, my waist circumference on the waist point, my hip circumference on the hip point, and also another way to shape it is to just take out the stitching allowance that you left while you were drafting. So for me, I took 2 inches stitching allowance, so I'll just take the 2 inches stitching allowance on all the sides. And yeah, guys, that is all for this tutorial. I hope it was helpful. Don't forget to like this video, leave your questions in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one.